The billionaire who saved the heartbroken bride, and together they took down her enemies. Before we start today's story, comment below where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you haven't already. You won't want to miss what's next. There was a big and beautiful church with a tall ceiling made of shiny stone and colorful glass. The air smelled strong with thousands of white roses. It should have felt calm and holy, but to Alara Vesper, it felt like a pretty cage that she couldn't escape from. The roses were her sister Bellamy's idea, but Alara didn't like them. They smelled too much and made her feel sick. She was standing at the end of a very long aisle wearing a shiny white dress made of smooth satin. Everyone said she looked like a princess, but inside she felt broken. She knew, deep in her heart, that she had been foolish. The music started to play, and everyone turned to look at her. The rich and famous people of Boston were there, smiling and waiting to see her get married. But Alara's eyes were on one thing, the empty spot where her groom, Preston Ashford, was supposed to stand. That space had been empty for 10 long minutes. People started to whisper all around her. "Where is he?" someone said loudly. Alara's face turned red. She could feel everyone staring at her. Her father, Arthur Vesper, sat in the front row, looking straight ahead with a hard, angry face. Her stepmother, Seraphine, gave her a tiny smile, but it wasn't kind. Her sister Bellamy looked like she was pretending to be worried, but her bright blue eyes were shining with secret happiness. Alara suddenly knew the truth. This was Bellamy's plan. Her marriage to Preston had never been about love. It was a deal. Her family wanted to get rid of her because she was born before her parents were married. To them, she was the wrong daughter, the one who made the family look bad. So they made a plan. They would give her to Preston, a man who needed her family's money. Alara had accepted her fate. She thought being married would at least give her peace. But now Preston had left her at the altar, in front of everyone. It wasn't just rejection. It was humiliation. The priest coughed nervously, the music stopped, the air became silent. Then everyone turned as the big church doors opened. Alara's heart jumped, thinking it was Preston. But no, it was his best man, walking quickly and looking scared. He held a letter in his shaking hands. He gave the letter to Alara's father and walked away without saying a word. Her father read it. His face turned red, then pale. He crushed the paper in his hand. He didn't even look at her. That hurt more than anything. The whispers grew louder. People were no longer hiding their gossip. She was left at the altar. She's not really a Vesper anyway. The words hit Alara like sharp knives. Her dress felt tight. Her breath came short. She wanted to run, to disappear. Then a hand grabbed her arm. She looked up and saw a man she didn't know. He was tall, strong, and dressed in a perfect dark suit. His hair was black, his face serious, and his gray eyes looked like a storm. His name came to her suddenly, Kalen Thorne. He was a rich and powerful man, a businessman who made and broke fortunes. People said he was cold and fearless. He leaned close and whispered in a deep voice, Don't let them see you break." Alara stared at him confused. Kalen looked around the church, and everyone went quiet. Then he looked back at her and said softly, "This doesn't have to be the end. It can be the beginning." "The beginning of what?" she whispered. "The beginning of their ruin," he said with a tiny smile. "And your victory." He turned to face her fully. "They made you a show. Alara, let's give them one they'll never forget. Marry me." Alara's eyes widened. "What?" she gasped. "Right now, here, in this church," he said calmly. "You will go from being a rejected bride to my wife. Let them see that the man who left you lost the greatest prize." It was a crazy idea, but it was also brave, and somehow it made sense. Alara looked over his shoulder. Bellamy's mouth was hanging open. Her father looked shocked. Everyone was staring. For the first time, Alara felt strong. She straightened her back, looked Kalen in the eye, and said clearly, "Yes, I will." Kalen smiled, a small, proud smile. He took her hand and turned to the priest. The people in the church couldn't believe what was happening. The priest still pale, quickly finished the ceremony. Alara barely heard the words. Her heart was beating fast, and Kalen's strong arm around her made her feel steady. As they walked down the aisle together, she knew her life had changed forever. She didn't know why Kalen had helped her, but she could already feel she had traded one cage for another. When the big door of Kalen Thorne's tall penthouse closed behind them, the silence was deep. It wasn't the same silence from the church. This one felt powerful and strange. Alara stood still, her heart still racing. The apartment was huge and beautiful, with shiny floors, dark furniture, and big glass windows showing all of Boston's lights far below. It looked like a palace in the sky, but also cold and lonely. Kalen walked inside, calm and sure of himself. He took off his coat and said, "Make yourself at home." His voice was smooth but not warm. Alara didn't move. This didn't feel like a home. It felt like a place for business. Her wedding dress looked silly here, like it belonged to a different world. Kalen went to a small bar and poured himself a drink. He didn't offer her one. He turned to her and said, "We should talk about the terms." "The terms?" she asked quietly. He nodded. "This is an agreement. You will help me fix my reputation, and I will protect you from your family and their gossip." She blinked. "So it's a deal, not love?" He smiled faintly. "Exactly. I like clear things, not feelings. You will live here, have clothes, a car, everything you need. You will be seen with me in public as my wife. You will act with grace and dignity. In return, you will have safety, comfort, and freedom." "And in private?" she asked, her voice soft. "In private," he said seriously, "you will have your own room, your own space. You can live as you wish, as long as it doesn't harm our image." Alara felt relief. She needed space. She nodded slowly. "How long will this agreement last?" "1 year," Kalen said. "After that, if we both agree, we can end it. And if we do, you'll have enough money to live freely for the rest of your life." He handed her a paper. It was a contract. She saw lots of words she didn't understand, but the numbers at the bottom were huge, more than she could ever dream of. She looked up and asked softly, "Why are you doing this? You could marry anyone. Why help me?" Kalen looked at her for a long moment, his gray eyes unreadable. Then he said quietly, "Because I don't like cruel people who hurt the weak, and I enjoy teaching them a lesson." He gave her a pen. "Now sign, Alara." Her hand shook as she took it. Their fingers touched, and she felt a spark, like lightning. Alara looked down at the paper in front of her. There was a line at the bottom where she had to write her name. She knew that signing it meant she was giving up her dreams of a happy, magical life. It meant her life would become a deal, not a love story. But what else could she do? Go back to her family's big house where no one cared about her and live forever in her stepsister Bellamy's shadow? She took a deep breath. Her hands shook, but she wrote her name, Alara Vesper Mallister. The name looked strong now, like a sword she could use to protect herself. Kalen, the man she had just married, took the paper and looked at her signature. He nodded in a way that showed he was pleased. Then he folded the paper and put it away. "Good," he said. He came closer to her, so close she could smell the clean, warm scent of him. It was strange. His closeness felt gentle, but everything between them was cold and serious. Suddenly, he reached out and softly brushed away a tear from her cheek. She hadn't even known she was crying. His touch made her heart jump. "No more tears," he said quietly, his voice deep and sure. "Don't cry for them anymore. From now on, you fight. You win." Then he stepped back. "Your room is down the hall to the left. You'll find everything you need there. Tomorrow night, we'll go out together for the first time, to the Hamilton Gallery. Be ready." He turned and walked away, leaving Alara standing alone in the big, silent room. She touched her cheek where he had wiped her tear. The contract was signed. Everything was decided. But as she watched him go, she felt scared. Kalen Mallister was more powerful and dangerous than she had ever imagined. She felt like a small bird in a cage, only this cage was made of gold. The next evening came quickly. The dress she wore was not soft or sweet like a wedding dress. It was bright pink, shining like a jewel. It hugged her body and made her feel strong. The back of the dress was open, and every time she looked in the mirror, she felt brave and nervous at the same time. The stylist Kaylin had fixed her chestnut brown hair in a pretty twist that showed her neck. She wore only one piece of jewelry, a pair of diamond earrings that sparkled like stars. When she looked at herself, she didn't see a scared girl anymore. She looked like a queen ready for battle. Kaylin was waiting for her in the living room, standing near the window with the city lights shining behind him. When he turned to look at her, something flashed in his eyes, something strong and unreadable. "You look adequate," he said in a calm voice. But his eyes said something very different. They moved slowly from her earrings to her bare back. He offered his arm. "Remember," he said, "the world will see a man who took something no one else wanted and made it shine. Your only job is to look like you were worth it." His words hurt a little, but they also made her stronger. She held onto his arm and walked beside him. The Hamilton Gallery was full of rich and important people. Everyone talked and laughed in fancy voices. When Kaylin and Alara entered, people stopped talking for a moment. Then whispers spread through the crowd like ripples in water. Alara could feel all their eyes on her. Kaylin placed his hand on her back, firm, guiding her through the room. She felt his warmth through the thin silk of her dress. It was like a jago that said, "She's mine." A friendly-looking man came over with a smile. "Kaylin, Alara, so good to see you." "Preston," Kaylin said smoothly, shaking his hand. "You remember my wife, Alara?" "My wife." Those two words made her heart skip. Preston looked at her with curious eyes. "A beautiful surprise to us all," he said. "The best surprises usually are," Kaylin replied with a sharp smile. He led Alara through the crowd like a conductor leading music. Every time he leaned close to whisper something about the people around them, his breath tickled her ear, and a strange shiver ran down her back. She smiled when he introduced her, spoke politely, and pretended everything was perfect. Bit by bit, she began to feel stronger, braver. People stopped whispering cruelly and started looking at her with something like respect. But then it happened. A cold, sweet voice cut through the air like a knife. "Well, well, look who decided to show up. And look how she's dressed now." Alara froze. She turned slowly. There stood her family, her father Arthur, her stepmother Seraphine, and her stepsister Bellamy in a shiny green dress, smiling like a cat that had found a mouse. "Father," Alara said calmly. "Stepmother, Bellamy." Arthur sighed. "Alara, this is too much. People are talking. You rushed from one wedding to another. It's embarrassing." "Let them talk," Kaylin said, his voice turning cold as ice. He didn't move, but somehow his presence filled the room. "At least now they have something worth talking about." Bellamy's smile grew sharper. "Oh, yes, a quick marriage, a rich husband. How lucky. I do wonder what you offered him, Alara. We all know it wasn't the Vesper name he wanted." The crowd went quiet. Alara's face burned with shame. But before she could speak, Kaylin did. He turned his head, his eyes like lightning. "You misunderstand, Bellamy," he said softly. "I didn't settle for her. I chose her." His gaze moved to Alara, and there was something fierce in it. Pride, fire, something that made her heart stop. "Your family was too blind to see her worth. I saw it, so I took it." He turned back to Arthur. "You wanted her to marry a boy who would use her and waste your name. I gave her an empire. That's what you couldn't do." Arthur's face went red. He couldn't say a word. Kaylin's eyes flicked to Bellamy again. "And as for what she gave me, she only had to be herself, something you could never do." He took Alara's arm gently. "Darling, I think we've seen enough art for tonight." He led her away while everyone stared in shock. The whispers that followed were no longer cruel. They were filled with respect and a little bit of fear. They rode home in silence. In the car, Alara looked out the window, her heart still racing. Kaylin had stood up for her, not just with words. He had destroyed every insult her family threw at her. When they reached the penthouse, everything was quiet. The big room that once felt like a cage now felt safe. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "Yes," Kalen said simply. "I did." He walked closer. His eyes were deep and dark, but calmer now. They needed to know who's in control. He touched her face gently, tracing her jawline with his finger. It made her shiver. "You did well," he murmured. "You stood tall when you used to bend. That matters." His words warmed something inside her heart, something that had been cold for a long time. For the first time ever, Alara felt like she was no longer the forgotten Vesper girl. She was someone else now. She was Kalen Mallister's wife. For a moment, it looked like he might kiss her. She could feel it. The air between them was electric. But then he stepped back. "Good night, Alara," he said softly and walked away to his part of the house, leaving her standing there, her heart racing, her cheeks burning. The golden cage didn't feel like a prison anymore. It felt like the beginning of something powerful, and maybe dangerous too. The next morning, Alara was having breakfast, fruit and fresh bread on the table. Kalen sat across from her, reading the newspaper, quiet and calm. Everything looked peaceful, until his assistant, Jago, came in quickly with a worried face. "Sir, you need to see this," he said, placing a tablet on the table. On the screen was a big, shiny headline from a gossip website. It said, "From Harris to arms dealer's wife, Alara Vesper Mallister's dark past revealed." Alara's heart dropped. She grabbed the tablet. The article said terrible lies, that her mother had been part of bad political groups and that her death wasn't an accident. It even hinted that Kalen had married Alara because of her mother's supposed connections to the underworld. "This is all lies," Alara cried. "My mother painted beautiful pictures. She didn't do any of this." Kalen didn't shout, but his voice was cold and strong. "It doesn't matter what's true," he said. "It only matters what people believe." He looked up, his eyes dark with anger. "Bellamy." He didn't need to ask. They both knew Bellamy was behind this cruel attack. Kalen stood up. "I'll handle it. We'll sue the newspaper. We'll make them take back every word." But Alara's hands were clenched. Her heart burned with fury. She was tired. Tired of always being caught in other people's games. Tired of having people defend her. Tired of her past being used against her. "No," she said clearly, her voice sharp. Kalen stopped and looked at her, raising an eyebrow in surprise. "No," she said again, standing tall to face him. Her silk robe felt soft, but she felt strong inside, like steel. "Legal threats are what they expect. It's like playing whack-a-mole. You stop one story and another pops up. I'm not going to spend my life reacting to her." "What do you want to do?" Kalen asked, a flicker of interest in his eyes. "I'm going to find the source," she said. "Not just this story, but all of them. Bellamy doesn't do this alone. She has help. I'll find out who, and I'll stop them." A slow, dark smile spread across Kalen's face. He looked like a predator who liked her fight. "Is that so? You gave me an empire to run," Alara said softly, but with strength. "It's time I start using it." The air in the penthouse felt charged, like something big was about to happen. The scared, sad person inside her was gone. Now there was a strategist, a planner, ready for action. The day passed quickly. Alara sat in her new office, a sunny room Kalen had left for her. She started making calls. She used her last name, Thorne, not to hide, but to open doors that were always closed before. She hired private investigators, the expensive, secret kind Kalen kept. She began pulling threads of Bellamy's life, looking for money, favors, weak spots. As evening came, the focus of her day began to fade. The memory of her mother, bright, laughing, kind, was fresh in her mind. Seeing the lies in the news about her mother made a wound open inside her. She stood by the big windows, looking at the city lights, feeling a deep, lonely anger. She didn't hear Kalen come in. She only felt him near her. "You didn't eat dinner," he said softly. "I wasn't hungry," she replied. He stood close, but didn't touch her. The investigators found a lead. A disgraced journalist who works for Bellamy. It's a start. She nodded, still looking at the city. She hurt my mother who never hurt anyone. I know, Kalen said simply. No pity, just the truth. That was all it took. Her cool, strong composure broke. A single hot tear ran down her cheek. She wiped it away angrily. I told you, Kalen murmured. The tears are done. Now come closer. I'm not crying for them, she said, turning to face him, her eyes full of tears and anger. I'm angry. Doesn't that count for anything in your world of numbers and strategy? His eyes darkened. It counts for everything. He moved closer in 2 steps, his hands framing her face. She felt the air leave her lungs. This fire, he growled, looking at her lips. This is what I saw in the church. This is what they tried to destroy. Then he kissed her. Not a gentle kiss. A fiery, hungry kiss. All the tension, all the anger, all the loneliness exploded in that moment. She froze for a moment. Then the anger, the loneliness, the need for connection, all turned into a burning surrender. Her hands grabbed his shirt, pulling him closer. She kissed him back with the same hunger, a silent scream of defiance and need. He backed her against the cold glass window. The city spread out behind her, a witness, his body pressed against hers, solid and hot. His hands tangled in her hair, tilting her head, deepening the kiss. It was intoxicating, dangerous. There was no going back. When he finally stopped, they were both breathing hard, their foreheads touching. The city lights reflected in her eyes. His thumb stroked her lip. His gray eyes were on fire, possessive, making her tremble. The calculation is over, Alara, he breathed. It was not just a confession. It was a warning, a promise. He kissed her again, softly this time. Tender, devastating. Alara knew that the battle with her family was only the beginning. The real war was here with Kalen. But now she didn't care about winning. She only wanted to burn. In the following days, the penthouse became full of tension and secret glances. The investigation into Bellamy continued, cold and professional, while the air between Alara and Kalen simmered with heat. Kalen acted like he had made a truce on the physical side, retreating behind his control. But Alara noticed. She would catch him looking at her across the room, dark and intent, and when she met his eyes, he would look away, talking about business again. The memory of his body pressed against hers, the taste of his kiss, felt like a fever dream. The breaking point came at a charity board meeting. Alara had suggested a smart idea to change how they raised money. Kalen nodded, but then dismissed it in front of everyone. Let's stick to the old way, he said. It seemed small, but to Alara, it meant everything. She felt like she was just a beautiful accessory whose thoughts didn't matter. He had protected her from her family, but he still kept her at a distance. That night, she waited for him in the living room. The city lights were cold and distant. She changed into a simple silk slip dress, a silent challenge to him. He came in, tired, loosening his tie. We need to talk, she said sharply. He stopped, noticing her in the dim light. If this is about the fundraising, it's not, she snapped, standing up. The anger she had held inside for days, even years, poured out. This is about you, about this farce, she said. He watched her, unreadable. The terms of our arrangement are clear, he said. Are they? She challenged. I thought it was business, appearances. Then you kissed me like that. And now you treat me like furniture that sometimes talks. What is your game, Kalen? Am I your wife or your employee? Your partner or your pet? You are my wife, he said, low and dangerous. Then act like it. She felt a raw plea in his voice. Stop treating me like a thing. You brought me here, told me to conquer this cage, but you won't even look at me. I look at you, he whispered, soft and deadly, all the time. It's a daily battle not to touch you, not to finish what we started by that window. She asked. Then why don't you? He laughed, harsh, without humor. Afraid? You have no idea. He closed the distance, his body tense, full of energy. Do you think this is a game? I didn't save you to be nice. I wanted you for myself. From the first moment I saw you at the Met Gala, I wanted you. I waited. When your family threw you away, it gave me my chance. This marriage wasn't to save you, it was to claim you. Her world shifted. He wasn't a savior. He was a predator, patient and ruthless. She should have been angry or scared, but she felt an overwhelming, powerful thrill. All this time, she whispered. All this time, he confirmed. So don't think I don't want you. The distance was my honor, giving you a choice. But now you're in my arms, and I'm done waiting. He kissed her again, full of possession. This was no spark. This was an inferno. She responded fully, arms around him, fingers in his hair. He carried her to his room, still kissing her. The room was dark, luxurious, masculine. He laid her on the bed, following her down, his body covering hers. His hands explored her body as if memorizing every curve. Alara, he murmured, a prayer and a curse. His name on her lips was all he needed. The night was a blur of feeling, whispers, skin on skin. A passion long denied, now overflowing. They gave themselves completely to each other. There was no Vesper, no Thorn, no contract. Just them. Two souls finally meeting. By morning, Alara lay curled against him, his arm heavy around her waist. The gilded cage was gone. What replaced it was something terrifying and exhilarating. A partnership forged in fire, no going back. The real marriage had just begun. Dawn came into the penthouse, painting everything with gold and pink. Alara woke, tangled in Kalen's sheets. The scent of him, spice and clean skin, was everywhere. His arm was a heavy, possessive band across her waist, and his breathing was deep and even against her back. For a long moment, Alara just lay there, letting everything sink in. The cold, separate bedrooms felt like they belonged to another life. The man who had married her just for convenience was asleep beside her, his body wrapped gently around hers like he was protecting her. She carefully slipped out of bed, trying not to wake him. She put on his big, soft dress shirt and quietly walked into the living room. The shirt whispered against her legs as she moved. The city below was still quiet, bathed in soft morning light. Alara felt different, lighter, stronger, like she had grown. The memory of his touch lingered on her skin, a thrilling reminder that she was wanted, not for a name or money, but for who she truly was. It was an exciting feeling. It also gave her a plan. The article about her mother still stung, like a small poison Bellamy had thrown at her. But this morning, that hurt didn't matter. Instead, Alara felt a sharp, clear purpose. She knew Kalen's lawyers could fight back, but that would just be a reaction. She needed to act first. She needed to know the enemy, not just defend herself. Alara sat at the sleek desk in her office. Turning on her laptop, she remembered that the Thorn Empire gave her more than fancy things. It gave her power. With just a few clicks, she accessed a secret server. She pulled up reports from the private investigators Kalen had hired. The investigators had found the journalist, a man named Lysander. He was in deep debt and working for Bellamy. But as Alara looked at the money trail, something didn't feel right. The payments to Lysander were large, but they were clean, sent through a fake company. It was too neat for Bellamy, who was usually dramatic and impulsive. This felt cold and planned. Someone was helping her sister, not just with money, but with a plan. Alara's fingers flew across the keyboard, checking the fake company against the Vesper family's business. Nothing. She searched everywhere for any connection to Kalen's business rivals. Again, a dead end. Frustrated, she leaned back and looked out the big window. The sun was higher now than it, sparkling on the city's tall buildings. And then it hit her. She had been thinking like a businesswoman, looking for rivals. But this wasn't about business. It was personal. It was about humiliation, about hurting her in a very private way. She started a new search. This time, she looked for people, not companies. She checked every social page, every photo of Bellamy from the past 5 years. She followed her sister's friends, alliances, and social events. And there he was, Corbin Vance. His name appeared again and again around Bellamy. He wasn't a businessman. He was a rich man whose family had lost almost all their money, but still carried a respected name. And 2 years ago, Kalen had taken over his family's company. Alara dug deeper, her heart racing. Corbin Vance was the secret partner behind the fake company funding the journalist. He was the one planning everything. Bellamy was just a tool. Thus, her jealousy made her easy to use. Now the puzzle clicked into place. This wasn't just her sister's jealousy, it was a full plan. And Alara had found the person behind it. The office door opened. Kalen stood there, wearing dark pants and a half-buttoned shirt. His hair was still wet from the shower. His stormy gray eyes swept over her. Alara sat in his shirt, looking powerful and confident like a queen at her command desk. "You left," he said softly, his voice low. "I had work to do," she replied without looking up. Kalen moved behind her, resting his hands on her shoulders, rubbing them gently. Then he leaned down, his lips brushing her ear. "The only work you should do this morning is in my bed." A shiver ran through Alara, but she didn't give in. She tilted the screen toward him. "Meet Corbin Vance." Kalen stopped, his playful smile fading. His eyes scanned the data she had found. His jaw tightened. "Thorn," he growled. "I should have known." "Bellamy gives the venom, but he gives the plan and money," Alara said calmly. "He's using her to get to you, to make you look weak. It's a long plan. He's not just planting stories. He's trying to make people question your judgment." Kalen stayed silent for a long moment, his hands on her shoulders. When he finally spoke, his voice was full of respect. "How did you find this?" "You gave me an empire, Kalen," she said softly, looking up at him. "But you also gave me a reason to fight for it. I'm not just the woman in your bed. I'm the woman by your side, and I won't let them destroy what we are building." Kalen looked at her, stripped bare by her confidence, more intimate than any touch or kiss. His thumb stroked her cheek. "I thought I was getting a beautiful, spirited wife, but I got a master strategist," he said. "A partner," she corrected, placing her hand over his. "A partner," he agreed. The word felt like a vow. He leaned down and kissed her slowly, a deep kiss full of promise and danger. "So, partner," he murmured against her lips, "what's our next move?" Alara smiled, sharp and clever. "We don't chase the fly, we find the nest and burn it. But first," she said, taking his hand and leading him out of the office, "we finish what we started in your bed. The empire can wait." Back in the bedroom, amidst the rumpled sheets that smelled like them, Alara felt a rush of power. This wasn't about the Thorn name, it was about the woman she had become. She was no longer a girl to be protected. She was a force. And Corbin Vance and Bellamy had made a huge mistake. They had underestimated her. The ballroom of the Pierre was full of Boston's richest people, all dressed in black tie and diamonds. Tonight, the air was full of tension. The whispers about Alara had grown, fueled by Bellamy's campaign. People were no longer talking about a jilted bride. They were questioning her character and her worth. Alara stood beside Kalen, wearing a long, deep green velvet gown that made her shine. Her hand rested lightly on his arm. She could see Bellamy across the room, smiling smugly. Corbin Vance stood nearby, holding a glass of champagne, looking satisfied. "Steady," Kalen whispered, his hand covering hers. "Remember the plan." The plan had been Alara's idea. Kalen wanted to confront Corbin in a boardroom, but she wanted poetic justice. "They tried to hurt me in public," she said. "Let them fail in public too." The moment came. Bellamy's sharp voice cut through the room. "And oh, Alara, darling, you look strong. It must run in the family. I was just reminding everyone about your mother's unfortunate past. It's so admirable that Kalen is forgiving." A hush fell over the room. This was the moment for Alara's response. Arthur Vesper, Bellamy's father, stepped forward. Alara took one graceful step forward, her gown pooling around her. She felt calm. "You are right about one thing, Bellamy," she said clearly, her voice carrying. "You are finally airing the family's dirty laundry, but you have the wrong laundry." She turned to Corbin Vance. "This isn't about my mother. It's about you, Mr. Thorn, and your failed company, Thorn Industries, which my husband legally took over after you ran it into the ground. You couldn't handle your failure, so you used Bellamy to try and hurt me. The payments from your fake company to Lysander Croft are all documented. You weren't buying stories, you were buying a weapon. And she was cheap. Bellamy's face went pale. You're lying. The only lies are yours, Alara said, looking at her sister. You arranged my marriage to a man you thought would abandon me. You wanted to destroy what little happiness I had. But your pettiness blinded you. You let a bitter man use you. Now the world sees the truth. You are corrupt, small, and vindictive. Then she turned to Kaelin, her voice soft and full of truth. And you, she said, her eyes shining, saw me when no one else did. You didn't offer pity. You offered a partnership. You gave me a sword, not a shield. You saw my worth when my own family did not. Kaelin's eyes held hers, full of love. He stepped forward, taking both her hands. I didn't forgive your past, he said, loud and strong. I love it. It made you strong. I didn't marry you out of pity. I married you because from the moment I saw you, I knew you were the only woman who could stand beside me. I love you. He pulled out a small black velvet box. The crowd gasped. He dropped to one knee. The contract was a pretense, he said, a weak excuse to make you mine. This is real. Inside the box was not a new ring, but her original wedding band, now surrounded by sparkling emerald diamonds. Alara Vesper Thorn, will you stay my wife? Not for convenience, but for love, forever. Tears of joy streamed down Alara's face. She whispered, yes, always, yes. He slid the ring onto her finger and lifted her into his arms, kissing her with passion. The crowd clapped softly. The jilted bride was now the beloved wife. The scandal had turned into a love story. Bellamy and Corbin were led away by security, their reputations ruined. Her father could only watch, stunned. Alara didn't look at them. She looked at Kaelin. Take me home, she whispered. He did. Back to the penthouse, no longer a cage but a sanctuary. Back to the bed where a marriage of convenience had turned into a real, passionate love. As Kaelin lay down beside her, his body warm against hers, Alara knew this was not the ending. It was the exciting, beautiful beginning of their life together.